So I'm going to do a quick overview of the Centre for Doctoral Training, then hand you over to Courtney, who will give student perspective, and then finish up coming back to me, and I'll just talk a little bit around the academic collaboration that we've got here, our industrial partners, some of the facilities that we have for undertaking hydrogen research. So the Centre for Doctoral Training, it's a collaboration across 5 universities. So in addition to Nottingham, where I'm based, then also the universities of Loughborough, Birmingham, Ulster and Cranfield. It's a large academic collaboration, and what we are looking at doing through the research is investigating different challenges, barriers to sustainable hydrogen for deep decarbonisation. Each of the studentships is a 4-year integrated PhD, and I'll talk a little bit more in later slides what an integrated PhD is. We have academic staff from different faculties, and we can undertake projects in science, the engineering, social science, and also the economics, business economics. So a variety of different types of challenges, research questions can be explored through the research projects that we're able to service through the Sushi CDT. In addition to that large academic collaboration, then we've got over 40 stakeholder partners. So that's a variety of companies and organisations that have got interests either in hydrogen itself or interests in energy and decarbonisation. Through the stakeholders and also our international collaboration partners, then there are a variety of secondment opportunities. I'll talk about that a little bit more in later slides. And in collaboration with our industry partners, then we've come up with a training package that is looking to make sure that all of our PhD students gain some industry experience whilst doing their PhD, so that at the end, when they graduate, they are industry-ready doctorates. So where does hydrogen fit in? So using this schematic from the Hydrogen Council, there are a variety of ways in which hydrogen can help towards decarbonisation. So it can enable large-scale efficient renewable energy, and one of the ways it can help with that is acting as a buffer for the power grid. So times of excess electricity, convert that excess electricity into hydrogen, then it being taking the hydrogen through a fuel cell to get the power back again. If you have generated the hydrogen, then you can use that hydrogen to distribute energy more easily around a country or globally as well. And it's not very efficient to transmit energy as electrons around a country. So it's much more efficient to do that as a chemical. Now that could be hydrogen, or there's also interest in other hydrogen-rich vectors, things like ammonia, and we do have some projects that are looking at use of ammonia for different applications, and also the safety issues related to ammonia as well. When we start to look at end use, then obviously we can use hydrogen for transport. That could be for personal vehicles, but also for public vehicles, buses, trains, and also we've got interests with aviation and marine transport applications. It could be used to help decarbonise energy intensive industry. We could use the hydrogen as a green feedstock gas, and if you combine it with captured carbon, then you're making useful chemicals, things like methanol or urea. The final example we've got here is looking at decarbonising heat and the use of hydrogen to replace, in the UK we use a lot of natural gas for heating using boilers, so we go over to hydrogen boilers, or use something like a fuel cell as a combined heat and power source. So the areas that we're interested in and are undertaking research looking at the technologies for combustion, distribution, generation of green hydrogen, storage, and then we're also interested in some of the system side, so with safety, efficient engineering integration of systems, the economics related to systems, but also looking at public acceptance of these new disruptive technologies. The one thing that I stepped over was with fuel cells. We don't actually, it's not within the remit of our centre to look at the development of fuel cells, but fuel cells might be part of an energy system. So it could be a black box that is giving either power or both heat and power back into a system. So as I mentioned before, then the studentships are on an integrated PhD programme. With an integrated PhD programme, that's different to a normal research-based PhD, where that would be 3 years intensively focused on research, whereas with an integrated PhD, there is a significant training component as well. And so it's really important to understand the difference of a CDT PhD as opposed to a pure research PhD, because it's not the right type of PhD for all students. Now, with the so there is a taught element that occurs within the first year of PhD, and given the multidisciplinarity of the area, then something that is important for all our students is that they get some understanding of the issues and concerns coming from different disciplines. So part of that taught element is to give all of our students some background in the science, the engineering, the social science, and also business economics that is important to the energy area and also with hydrogen technologies. In addition to that multidisciplinary training, then there are taught options that are available to students, so you can tailor that to your interests, but also there are research skills modules as well to develop all of our PhD students, getting them ready for when they become research focused. So the first 2 semesters, there's a significant training aspect to it with the taught elements. We do encourage all of our students to start to get to grips with their PhD project and project area. So that'll be doing things like literature review, doing some of the initial training. If it's a lab-based project, doing some of the training that will be necessary for the lab work that you'll be doing later on in the project. So from sort of June, July time, you'll become research focused in the first year. And then from then on, through years 2, 3 and 4, primarily research. About 90% of the time we research, 10% will still be used for some training aspects. And that training tends to be more experiential training. So it could be doing things like outreach activities, public engagement, on communication. It could be going to an international conference and there's support through the research training and support grant for that, or it could be taking opportunity of going on a secondment to a research facility or to one of our stakeholders. And there's money from the centre that helps to pay for the mobility required for that secondment period. So there's a variety of different things that will happen in years 2, 3 and 4, helping to develop some of the important transferable skills that our stakeholders have identified as important for them when they're looking to recruit. Now, with the application process, because we are a collaboration across 5 universities, then the initial application process is through the CDT itself. So if you go to our webpage, you'll be able to find the online application form. The other thing that you will want to get from that webpage is the brochure of current PhD projects available. Having perused that brochure of projects, then in the application form, you want to identify your top 3 projects that you'd like to be considered for. There might be a project that isn't covered, but you're interested in doing, so you can also propose your own project as well. And there's space within the application form to give a title and then a brief description. And what we'll do as a CDT is see if we can match up that project with a supervisor at one of the 5 universities. With the application process, then something that, if you have seen the advert through jobs.ac.uk or Find a PhD, then you'll see that we're seeking to recruit diverse cohort of students and working with partners like the Women's Engineering Society and Women in Science and Engineering to help improve the diversity of the cohorts that we are recruiting. So we put a lot of emphasis on diversity, but then also as a CDT providing an inclusive environment so that all students that join us are able to flourish and develop through their years here within the CDT. With this last recruitment round, then there are 22 full studentships available, and that covers fees for both home students but also international students as well. So we are recruiting for both home and international students. Now, with the application form, there are 4 questions in there. 2 of them, knowledge and skills, related to identifying good students with good potential for undertaking a research project. The other 2 questions around diversity of innovation teams and looking at an individual's motivation for sustainable hydrogen research. That is looking to assess the candidate themselves and their potential for the CDT and making a positive contribution to the CDT as well. Another thing to also realise is that although you're asked to submit a CV, the shortlisting panel only look at the application form. They don't look at the CV as well. So we go through an anonymised shortlisting process. So any important information, give it in the application form. Don't refer back to your CV because the shortlisting panel aren't allowed to have a look at the CV itself. Those candidates that are shortlisted, they'll be invited to interview, and at that interview, there's an individual interview. You get to meet some of the students, and then there's also a group activity that we run through as well. It's all done online, so it's all done through MS Teams, which means that we can accommodate both home and international students, regardless of where they happen to be at the moment. The candidates that are successful after the CDT interview will then be nominated for a PhD project, and there'll be a follow-up interview with the potential project supervisors. And if it's a project that's sponsored by industry, it will also be with the industrial supervisor as well. Where possible, we try to encourage site visits, but appreciate that that won't always be possible, especially with international applicants. Candidates that are successful through both of those interview stages, then the next thing they need to do is register with their home university. So we as a CDT don't award PhDs. That PhD is awarded by the home university. So you then need to go through the online application for that university to get enrolled on the Sustainable Hydrogen Integrated PhD programme. So there are a number of steps. Don't worry about trying to remember all those steps. There is a lot of support and advice comes through from the CDT team, what's required at each step. So always use the Sushi email address if you've got questions that we're not able to answer today or that you haven't thought of at today's webinar. But I do hope that you will put in an application and that you might be joining our growing research community. So we've got 45 PhD students currently in the CDT and looking forward to that expanding with this next round of recruitment. So I shall unshare my screen. So raised hand from Mohammed. Do you want to unmute?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi there, Gavin. Thank you for your wonderful and informative presentation. What I did want to ask was about the interview process. You've mentioned that there will be a meeting with a current student, and then there will be a group individual interviews. Are these held online, or are they, because what I understood was I thought I need to travel to the UK in order to attend these interviews.
Right, so no, we do all of the interviews online. And so with that interview day, where there's an individual interview, there'll be a meeting with the PhD students, because it means that for the group activity, we've actually got a mix of home, international candidates, and everybody is being treated equally there.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Handing back over to Courtney.
So I am cohort 2, so I'm in the third year of my PhD. I started in October 2020, and I'm based at the University of Nottingham. I'm doing a PhD in chemistry, and I'm based at the CNL, so that's the big wooden chemistry building on the Jubilee campus at Nottingham. And my project is on sustainable hydrogen evolution catalysts. So it's an electrochemistry PhD, looking to find the best catalysts for hydrogen production which are sustainable. But more importantly, what is a typical day like for a PhD student? So it really does depend on what field you are, and the CDT is so multidisciplinary that your day is going to be very different from mine. I'm based in Belfast at the moment, but a typical day for me in Nottingham would be to go to either the CNL or the RAD. The RAD has a lot of CDT students, and the CNL is where my research group is based as well. So some days I might be doing some synthesis, so some wet chemistry, sometimes it's some electrochemistry. There's a lot of meetings and webinars and conferences, and that's a good opportunity to travel as well. Not every day, but there's a lot of learning with a PhD, and there's an awful lot of reading. You end up reading a lot about your subject area, the new stuff, the old stuff, everything, and it's really interesting. CDT, I always describe the CDT as an extra research group. With any PhD, you will have a research group and you will have supervisors. But the CDT gives you an extra circle, and that extra circle gives you lots of opportunities. So you'll have your research group and those opportunities, but you'll also have this. So we have lots of community events. So ongoing, we have a journal club, so that's just bringing new papers and discussing them. And because it's multidisciplinary, you're getting to see papers outside of your specific area. So when you get asked a question at a conference, you can go, actually, I have a reference point for that. We have EDI discussions. So EDI is a really big part of the CDT, and they are very keen on equality, diversity and inclusion, and do a lot of work to prove that. So we have monthly discussions where we see what we can do to improve it. There's quarterly management board meetings, and you do have the opportunity to be a student rep there, which is a really good experience, and I do recommend volunteering for that. There's a bi-weekly coffee chat, so if you have any issues that's going on or you just want to catch up with people, there is the opportunity to do that, and again, that's virtual. And then there's a buddy scheme which was set up by Nicola a few years ago. So once you start, if you want to, you can be assigned a mentor or a buddy in the years above to just sort of help you settle in, which is really useful. I've been the person with a buddy and I've been the buddy, and I can say both sides are great. And they actually, the CDT provided training for that as well, so it's definitely something worth looking at. We have lots of events. So the very first year when I started, it was COVID, so a lot of them were virtual. So you'll see a few of them here. Stakeholder event, we had quizzes, we had our first in-person event in October 2021, and that was a picnic. We've had power trainer workshop, which was really just exploring the skills that you have in your PhD that aren't necessarily to do with your subject area. Since then, we've had a lot more in-person events. So we've been to all of the partner universities. We've done some presentations and some events for International Women's Day. And that's the mentor training that I was talking about there. And you can see there's a lot of us, but not all the events are strictly for work. So you can see we've done archery, we've done laser tag, we've had escape rooms, and again, we had the opportunity to meet a lot. We had the support to organise an LGBTQ plus researcher event, where we had some fantastic speakers, and the CDT really helped us promote that. So we also had the CDT conference, which was an opportunity so the further along students were able to give presentations, and other students were able to give posters. So it was a really good opportunity to see what work was being done by fellow students in the CDT. And as Gavin said earlier, we do have a lot of stakeholders. We do hold stakeholder events, so you get to meet those people from industry, and it really does put your PhD in a different place because you know what industry is doing. A lot of PhDs, you're so focused on your research and getting to your thesis that you don't see the applications and the jobs beyond that. So my advice, the interview, be honest. So it's a group interview and an individual interview. Show your skills, but be yourself, because you want to find the CDT fits you as well as you fit in the CDT. And honestly, if you do that, you're going to find a project that you love. Once you get accepted, there is a lot of paperwork because you have to submit from the 4 universities, but the CDT does guide you through it. You're basically handheld the whole way until enrolment. First year, you do your modules, which really does give you a wide view of your subject area, hydrogen in general. So you'll take modules from social sciences, engineering, and it's great because I don't know any other PhD students who really have that broad a view of their subject area, and the CDT really does give you that opportunity. Plus, you get to go to all the 4 universities, be that online or in person, to study those modules, and that just gives you a really good student experience as well. That's all I have in terms of slides.
Just going through some of the other reasons for joining the CDT if you're interested in undertaking research in sustainable hydrogen. So if you join the CDT, then you'll be joining a centre that has access to a lot of expertise. So across the supervisor pool, over the 5 universities, then that involves over 50 academics who are all leading experts in their respective areas. There's also supporting all of our students, as Courtney was saying, then the CDT team led by Candable Mannequin. Sean Kirby is part of that team, and also the management board, which Courtney also mentioned. So the management board involves, we have student reps, we've got the CDT administration team, and then there are co-directors who are academics from the different universities. So all of the universities are represented on there, as well as the students being represented. So rather than me going through all 50 odd academics, then just thought as a summary, looking at the management team, which is about 8 or 10 academic staff, then just across our expertise and networks, then we've got international collaborations with Europe, Asia, Australia, US, Brazil and South Africa. We all look to bring those opportunities to researchers that are working with us or through the CDT. Many of us are UK experts for the International Energy Agency's Hydrogen Technology Collaboration Programme, be it in hydrogen generation, storage, or on the safety side, and also biohydrogen. We also, many of us are on government advisory boards, again, looking at different aspects of hydrogen, and we are, many of us have been recognised as leaders within our fields. So across the management board, over 6 awards and medals for research leadership. And we've got combined publication of over 1,000 journal papers in the area of hydrogen. So a lot of wealth of knowledge and expertise for the individual members on the management board, but also then collectively across the CDT, which our PhD students are then able to tap into and access. With the facilities across the partner universities, then because one of the things that we try and make sure all of our PhD students do look to explore is don't just be focused on what's available to you and your research group, look at what's available through the CDT and beyond the CDT as well, and how that might benefit your PhD. So at Nottingham, then we've got the largest university hydrogen lab in the UK that's serviced by a 200 kilowatt electrolyser. At Birmingham, then there is the green hydrogen demonstrator at Tyseley Energy Park, which is a really nice hub for generating academic and industry collaborations. We've also got at Nottingham at our creative energy homes, then a domestic hydrogen demonstrator looking at generating hydrogen from solar power and then feeding that hydrogen energy back into microgrid either as power or heat. Across all of the universities, then extensive characterization facilities. So if you're looking for a particular type of characterization kit that's not maybe at your university, there may well be that you can get access to it through one of the other university partners. In addition to the university facilities, then many of us are also using large-scale facilities. So that could be synchrotron or neutron facilities in UK and Europe. At Ulster, which are experts in safety, they've got a unique set of hardware and software in the high safer group, specifically for looking at simulating different scenarios to assess hazards associated with the use of hydrogen and also ammonia. And with things like the modelling projects, then in addition to having supercomputer facilities at our respective universities, then we also get access through individual research groups to national facilities like Archer. In addition to those academic, so you're developing a network within that academic community and access to expertise and facilities, but also, as Courtney was alluding to, then through activities like our stakeholder workshops, you'll get to meet representatives from a variety of organisations that have got interest in hydrogen energy, and that can really help our students understand how their research fits into the wider picture, and has also often generated some really interesting conversations between the students and the stakeholders themselves. So something that always comes back in feedback from our students, that they've found those stakeholder interactions really valuable. So that's the last of my slides, so I'll stop sharing. And again, if you've got any questions, Mohammed, if you want to just unmute.
Thank you, Gavin. You've mentioned in your first part of presentation about the deadlines. I've been to your website and I've read that application was open, but it didn't mention anything about possible deadline.
We have a rolling programme of interviews. So my advice is to submit your application as soon as possible, because we are at interview stage. Successful candidates, we're recommending them for a PhD project. And once a PhD project is then under consideration by a candidate, that is then no longer available to other candidates. So get in early so that you get your first choice.
Sure thing. Thank you. Thank you very much. It was very informative.
Thank you.